Hello, everyone. Welcome to Real Talk Food Safety with Tia and Jill. And we have two very special guests today, Francine and Matt. Welcome.
Hi.
Welcome.
Welcome. Hey, we're so lucky to have you. And actually, I forgot to mention, today is our 100th episode.
Yes.
I was just looking at the notes and I'm like, this is perfect to have you two here with us because we so enjoy you.
Yes.
Wow.
I didn't realize until I brought it up today. Like, man, this is our 100th episode.
100. Have you been doing this like once a week for 2 years now?
Yeah.
For almost, yeah.
Wow. Congratulations. That is special.
Yes, that's exciting.
And Francine and I know you have to really like each other to do something for more than a few months. At our year mark, we're like, hey, I think we're stuck with each other.
No, we made it.
But after 2 years, wow, that's amazing.
Are we still good? Yeah, we're still good.
That's what's so cool because you guys know, like, that's kind of like what the magic is, right?
Yeah.
Sometimes you just find it and it clicks. So.
Right.
It's true.
Right.
But
If you have some chemistry, because if you don't,
that is true. That is true. Chemistry.
It's like the 1 year mark in a marriage. It's like the 1 year mark and the 7 year mark. After 7 years, I looked at my wife and I was like, yeah, I think we're good.
Right. That's true. That's true. We're coming up on year 8 and I'm like, how are we feeling? How are we feeling on year 8? What do we need to do differently? How are we feeling here?
Look, we're already living up to the title of this episode, which is making food safety fun.
Yeah, absolutely. Which we knew that when we knew we were going to have you all on our show. So we're excited about having you all. And our audience, you all are out here and you are here with us each and every week. Thank you to everyone that has watched our episodes. We love what we do. We love what we talk about. And we love the space. We love the space with ourselves, with our guests, with our audience. So please say hello in the comments. That's how we see you, is when you comment. So say hello. Let us know where you are watching from, because we're also all over the U.S., right? Maybe, Francine, you and I are close together.
We are. Yes. You and I are about an hour and a half apart.
Yeah, so we're on the East Coast.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah. Matt, where are you located?
I am in beautiful Colorado Springs.
Okay.
Yeah, it is like, I don't know, 60 degrees right now. And then this evening, we're supposed to have a foot of snow. So that's Colorado for you.
Yes, it is. That's awesome.
Yes. The weather has been nice. We're supposed to be in the 70s this weekend.
Nice.
Around Baltimore. But then I think we're supposed to get snow after that. So
Yeah, and then it'll be 20,
Right, exactly.
Yeah,
We're just like making our way to summer.
We're getting there.
Yeah.
Yes. And I love that with people joining us from all over as well. Massachusetts, South Carolina. Hello. Thank you for dropping a comment in for us.
Yes, food safety warriors. That's how I feel like we are. And we have two of the best with us. So we're excited about our conversation today.
Oh, we are. Yes, we are. It's going to be fun.
Yes,
Yes,
it is.
And we're going to dive in. But before we even do jump in officially, like if this is your first time joining us for Real Talk Food Safety, welcome. We're so happy to have you here with us and joining in. And you may be wondering, who is Catalyst? Well, that's Tia and I. And we're here because we are on a mission to transform how we lead in food. Right? Everybody keeps talking about we want better food safety culture. It's really tough in our industry. Yes. But the only way it's going to change is if we step up and shift how we're leading to get different results. So if you are ready to improve engagement, retention, overall well-being, all while you can still do this while driving business goals and profit, then contact us at Catalyst. We get you there faster.
Yes, we do. And a part of our mission is to have these conversations, learn what is happening out in the food safety world, and have these real talks each Wednesday. And so I want to say hello to Matt and Francine and jump in. we will first have you share a little bit about yourself, just in case people don't know who you are, which if you don't know who Matt and Francine are, then you've been living under a rock.
And you're in for a treat.
You are. So Matt, we'll start with you. Introduce yourself and what led you to food safety or the food world.
Yeah. So I am Matt Regusci, and let's see, a little bit about myself. I have 10 kids. My wife and I do foster care. My wife works in the NICU with little babies. So in foster care, we do medically fragile babies. And so yeah, that takes up a lot of my life. And the more children I have, the more passionate I've become about food safety and just making sure that people don't die when they eat, and particularly the little kiddos that are the most vulnerable, and the elderly that are most vulnerable. What led me to food safety? My family was always California growers, California dairy. So I was around agriculture, and right out of college, I ended up at Primus Labs. And they told me they were trying to figure out how to basically monetize electrons. So there was a data management program that was connected with the residue testing and the micro testing and the auditing. And what they wanted to do was figure out a way of making sure that retailers and food service companies and everybody in the chain knew what they were buying from was actually safe and compliant to their expectations. And it never been really done before. So at Primus, I was able to co-found a company called Azul and a standard called Primus GFS, which is still around today, which is awesome. And then from there ended up, my partner and I ended up having a company called WQS. There was many companies that kind of formed into WQS. And we became one of the largest certification bodies in the Western Hemisphere. Wow. And we sold that. And then I became a consultant working mainly with FSMA 204. In fact, it's funny because my business partner, after we sold, he ended up creating a company that Francine is now a partner of. So my former business partner and Francine are partners together. And while I was at WQS, Francine and I would work on different projects. And she kind of explained her career, but was more on the retail food service side now now she's the whole thing. And we were more the supplier side of things. And so we would have similar clients, but that needed different needs. And so she and I would talk to each other and help each other out. And our conversations, we would start with like a need, right? Hey, Francine, can you help me with this retailer or with this food service company? What are they looking for? We're going to be working with them on the supply chain side. And then she'd be like, yeah, you want to talk to this person, this person, this person. And what would end up being like normally like a 5 to 10 minute call, an hour and a half later, she and I would still be talking. And we realized that we should probably turn this into a podcast. It took 7 years later, but that ultimately happened. But now I can announce that, so I've been doing FSMA 204 consulting, which is traceability consulting. But I've moved on to take a role as CEO at Ellipse Analytical, which is and I start April 1st, which is the laboratory and certification side for Clean Label Project. So Clean Label Project is out there to make baby food and infant formula and all that stuff safer for babies. And so I get to take my passion, my family's passion of babies, and my passion of food safety and combine them together now with my new role. So super excited about that.
Fantastic. A round of applause for you.
Yes.
That's awesome. Seriously.
Thank you.
Congratulations. You're like a living testimony of like your passion, even outside of work.
Yes.
Yeah.
Connecting with your passion at work.
It's an amazing, obviously it's just an amazing opportunity that landed in my lap. And luckily I was at a place where I could take it. because you're exactly right. I never thought it would be like this. I never thought I'd be taking food safety and babies and combining them together, but I'm so excited about it.
That's awesome.
Awesome. Congratulations.
And I love how you talk about your early interactions with Francine. Like, it's just another way that, like, we always talk about the food world is small.
Yeah.
Like, right, that connection. And look here, after that 7-year itch of talking, like what it's turned into now with the podcast and everything.
Yeah.
Yes. Which we want to dive into the Don't Eat Poop podcast. But we'll first start with you, Francine, just to give a little background on who you are and how you made your way into food.
Sure. And I'll give you the Cliff Notes version. I also grew up in the food service industry. My grandparents had a convenient, like the old general store type convenience store, and I grew up there, started out on my grandmother's lap. And then my parents had a grocery store, and I got my first job in a fast food restaurant when I was 15, left years later as an operating partner. And, after that, I worked my way through, training, and I've worked in every aspect really of the food service industry, training, academia, regulatory. There's not a piece of the food service industry literally that I have not touched throughout my career. And throughout that, I started meeting people like Darren Detweiler and people in training classes that I taught and people in conferences that I met who were affected by experiences where, either they had gotten sick or their children had gotten sick or, they had died from eating food that wasn't safe. And, when I managed my restaurant, I would have overnight cleaning parties and we would come in and we would clean all night and we would have pizza and we would play music and we would do all these things. And, I can honestly say my restaurant was clean. Like you guys read my book. We scrubbed the floor with grout.
Everyone grab this book.
Yes.
It is amazing.
It is amazing.
We scrubbed the grout with toothbrushes. When I say that was real. We really did that. And, I thought everybody did these things. And, I would check under the equipment with a flashlight to make sure that it was clean. And we would clean the drains and the floors. And when I started doing health inspections and going into restaurants, and at one point I had cockroaches falling on my head from a fogging that had to be done because it had been shut down by the restaurant had been shut down by the health department. I was a consultant. My job, my job was to go in and, get them open as quickly, efficiently as I could, because every day you're closed is costing you money. Okay. And, it's cockroaches are raining on your head and there's an operator saying, I don't want to throw these things away because it's costing me money. And you're thinking, what is wrong with this mentality?
Yeah.
And these things affect you as a person. And, you start to think that, you've got to do something to help people understand why these things are wrong. And to, Matt and I have often said with the podcast, we want to not only reach people in our field understand the importance of food safety, but we want to reach consumers too. We want to, real talk, real world. We want to reach everybody and help them, realize, and as a health inspector as well, why these things are important. As a health inspector, I really tried to not just say, look, this is a problem, you need to fix this, but explain to them why it's a problem, why you can't use a piece of a tree as a bowl to make your tortilla shells. There's a reason you can't do this, not just get this out of your restaurant and don't bring it back.
Right, exactly.
You have to really give them the whys and explain. And those are the kinds of things that led me to the advocacy side of, why we do, this is why I do what I do, and the reasons behind it. We both love what we do and we are passionate about what we do. And, that's the reason behind it. I mean, it's just so nobody should ever get sick from eating food. Certainly people shouldn't die.
Right.
Not in today's world, not here in the United States.
Yeah. So that's, the Cliff Notes version of there was a long path to get there, and a lot of stuff, but that's what led me here.
And you have a ton of experience and just the stories in your book. I have it up here. Jill also has it. Like, Who Watches the Kitchen? Like, if you do not have it, check it out. And Francine shares many of her stories as a health inspector that have you thinking about, right? Like, just not just what goes on, but also like how, from just like a consumer standpoint, even if you are a consumer, the things that you should know, the whys behind it. So I appreciate the work that you do, Francine. And this piece, especially as you think about it from a retail standpoint or a food service standpoint, the people that are working in the restaurants, they are consumers, right? Like, they maybe have gone through some training around food safety. And even then, it's been that one training to get that one certificate to be able to operate and lead in your facility, for years to come. And so just this focus on consumers, like, that's a little bit of passion for me, because those are the people that are working in the restaurants. They're the people that's the closest to this area, which I would say probably the most vulnerable area as we think about food service and retail and sickness, illness, and death in food.
Right. I think as an industry, we need to do a better job of training the people that are training the people.
Oh yeah.
That's important, because there's people at some point have been trained. And, I say this all the time. There's a difference between training and education.
Oh, yes.
Training is showing somebody how to do something, and education is explaining to them why it's important. And oftentimes the education portion is lacking.
Yeah.
Somebody wants
I
to
just realized something, though. All four of us have created a training company at some point in time. Catalyst is actually like, we're literally like Francine's. Jill and Tia are like, yeah, keep it going, Francine. Keep keep saying it. But I created a company called Train to Comply. Savvy Food Safety is literally a train the trainer.
Yeah.
Right?
Training program.
I just realized that. Yeah.
Well, that's because we're sick of like box checking. Yep, did it. Check.
Right.
And I think somebody, I don't know who it was, so if somebody knows, to give this person credit, but they said it's the difference of like the difference between these two things, right? To think about it. Like, do you want your kids going to school and having sex education or sex training? It really helps kind of show, like, education only gives you information. Training goes to the next level.
Right.
Well, and this goes to show too the difference of consumers, because when I was 15, I definitely would have made a very different choice than I would today.
Yes, but when we talk about the training we need our people to do for food safety, it needs to be training, not just education.
Right.
I love that you said that, because I stopped just shy of saying that. Last time I said that, Matt nearly fell out of his chair.
Yeah, we actually have that on a podcast. So.
Just say that.
That's hilarious. That's funny. Yeah, Justin has some comments.
Blushing.
You're right. I mean, that's like one of the gaps, but yet we still keep checking the box on training. But yet, how many times do we circle back and we retrain? Like, the system's broken.
Yeah, absolutely. We were just talking, like, as we think about with Catalyst, our programs go so much more than just the check in the box, right? Like, if you're looking for a check the box on food safety culture, we kind of set through something and that's that's not going to be us. But it's like really learning how we work with leaders. So learning how to be a better leader, practicing, reflecting, and on this journey, that's where we play in. But it's like, it's true. It's like, if you even look at examples, like one example that I really think about when it comes to like training is like when my team was messing up on label verification. And I was literally training, because that's the corrective action, is to do training. I was training every few months. And I'm like, okay, first of all, I don't have time to keep training you on a job that I know that you know how to do. You were doing it before I was even here. So I didn't invent it. But once I was really able to get down and have a conversation, like literally said, hey, I'm going to go through our content because I have to do it, but I have time set aside for us to talk about what is happening. And that's when I stopped doing the reoccurring corrective action training, because people got it. you know, that because we had that conversation afterwards versus just retraining.
Which is really interesting that you bring up the labeling thing, because I've talked to a lot of retailers and food service companies over my career, and you know, these major retailers are going through like 300 recalls a year, right? And so that's like one a day. So I know, like on the supply chain side, recalls, it's like every maybe couple years you may have a recall. The retailers, the food service companies, why they're really pushing you on the recall side is because they're dealing with it on a daily basis. Over 30% of the recalls are mislabeling of allergens on labels. And so like that training, what you're talking about, that education could save, I don't know, 100 recalls per retailer every single year, which is huge. It's not just an issue too in terms of whatever that guy's, that's his job, that guy or gal's job is to deal with the recalls. But if somebody consumes that product, like what we saw just recently we've seen it multiple times, but we just saw at Disney, we saw in multiple places, people die from mislabeling of products. And so what is just a check on somebody's box is literally somebody's life.
Exactly. So the education piece is so important versus like, oh, just do this, right? Like, but really understanding the importance of it. And in my case, really understanding where are we messing up, right? Because like, where are we messing up? Where are the gaps that we need to close? And doing the training over and over and over, that's obviously not getting to the root cause. And so, you know, we see all the time where people are trying to change behaviors or they're trying to change their culture, but they're trying to use the same tools they've been using. And sometimes you have to step outside of the box and do things a little bit differently if you want to have a different result.
So I think a lot of times when trainers or educators go into a room and they have a group of people and they go in to educate that group of people, they spend the first 10 to 15 minutes talking about themselves. Those people sitting in that room don't give a shit about you.
Right.
They don't care. They don't care that you've talked or educated or, you know, in Dubai, or that you've flown 4 times this week, or they can't relate to that. They can't.
Yeah.
They can relate to the fact that you might have stood at a sink and done dishes for 5 hours, you know, when you were an employee. So if you want to talk about the things that you did, or whatever aspect of the industry it is that you happen to be working in that day that they can relate to, that's great. If you can bring those stories into the classroom, don't talk about things they can't relate to, because they don't care. Because at that point they start to zone out. They if it's not relatable, they don't care. It does no good for you to stand up there and talk about the things that they can't relate to, because honestly, they don't care about all the extra things that you know that you have in your brain that aren't going to help them be successful at the end of the day.
Right.
And educators walk into a room and that's the first 10 to 15 minutes about what they talk about, what they spend their time talking about. People in the room don't care about that. They don't.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah, you've lost them.
That's your ego talking.
Yeah. Yes.
You know, it's funny. Don't eat our podcast. Don't eat poop. That's what we try to do. In fact, you could listen to 10, 20 episodes in a row and not even know what Francine and I do as a career. I mean, other than food safety somehow, shape, or form. I mean, that is the theme of the podcast.
Promoters in the world, like they're the worst self-promoters in the world.
But clearly, what you're doing is resonating with people.
Yeah.
So my wife calls
word is out, and you were talking about. I mean, you're like trending.
Yeah, globally. Yeah, we're trending globally. My wife calls it a food safety podcast for moms. If your dad's out there too, you can listen as well. But yeah, it's a food safety podcast for consumers. We had a comment here that says consumers need more education in regards to food safety, handling, cleansing, and storage. If you listen to a lot of our podcasts, I mean, we go into details about food safety, but in a way that is consumable by your everyday person who isn't a food safety nerd. So Francine and I use the term food safety nerd when we go to start nerding out about something. but most of the time it's digestible food safety content.
Yeah. I love
I mean,
that.
it's called Don't Eat Poop.
Right.
Right. Exactly.
That in itself is hilarious. And, you know, I'm sure people are wondering, like, how did you come up with that as a name for the podcast? Because clearly it makes people stop in their tracks.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, just like when you're walking down, down the sidewalk or in the park and you see a big pile and you just stop in your tracks, just like that, right?
Yes.
So yeah, Francine and I, again, we've been talking for years about doing a podcast, and then we started talking seriously about it probably, I don't know, 6 months to a year before we actually pulled the trigger, Francine.
Probably, yeah. We'd been talking briefly, throwing the idea around for probably 6 months to a year before we were like, I think I said, look, I found a guy that can do this for us. Let's do it.
That's exactly how that happened, right?
Happened.
Yeah. And so then we start talking with this guy, Joe. He's a great guy. We start talking with him, and he's like, okay, yeah, let's put together the format. This is how you would do it. And we go down the path of everything. And we have basically what our format's going to be, what it is that we're going to do. Like, in the beginning, everything kind of evolves. But then he's like, well, we should probably come up with a name. And so we're throwing different things out. And then I remember there was this guy, he may hear this, and I'm going to give him a shout out to it, but it's Dr. Doug Powell had this blog called Barf Blog. He's a Canadian guy. He taught at K-State for a while, and I used to follow his blog pretty religiously. And he would say things like at conferences, and in his blog, he would use "Don't Eat Poop." And so I looked and I was like, is it trademarked? Does the domain exist? And so we grabbed the domain, and then I was like, hey, how about Don't Eat Poop? We had, again, named out a bunch of things. And then our editor, Joe, at the time was like, dude, that's hilarious. And Francine was like, no, that's 100% hilarious. But how far down this road do I want to go towards tarnishing my image?
Ooh, yeah.
Right. And so then she was on board to the point at which she created the logo with her Neuroman, with the big pile of poop on the plate. And I was like, all right, we're all in.
I love it.
Do you have anything else you want to elaborate on?
Yeah, Francine, talk a little bit about like when you heard Matt say, "Don't eat a poop."
So, well, we talked a little bit about this, yesterday, I guess. So I had worked very, very hard at this, full on business persona that I had, very, very professional business persona that I had. Probably a little bit too hard, to be honest, at this point. When I first started in the business, many years ago, and I worked very hard, very, very hard to get where I am today. And it was much harder for women then. It still is. I mean, I don't know who I'm trying to kid here, but it still is. And I'd worked very hard for the image that I had created. And, Matt's like, hey, let's do this. Let's don't eat poop. And I'm like, oh, Jesus, what is this going to do? Like, my image has gone to crap. Now, people that know me
literally gone to crap.
Know that I am genuinely like a fun person and have a sense of humor and am not like this rigid personality that I hadn't realized that I had created. And I unintentionally had created a somewhat rigid personality to the point that, Matt and I were very good friends. And, Matt's telling people that we're friends, and people are like, you and Francine are friends because we had seemingly such different personalities.
Yeah.
Very good at what we do, both professionals, both consultants. And they're like, you and Francine are friends, because people can't imagine that, we would interact.
Yeah.
Just like, maybe I took this a little bit too far. Yeah, I'm just like, oh my God, I don't know. Don't eat poop. Should I do this? Like, am I just destroying my career? What am I doing? But it's turned out that, and I think COVID has helped a lot with this too. You know, there was a day when I would have never sat here to do this type of an interview or this type of conversation without some type of like a suit or there's nothing wrong with the sweater that I have on, but without a different type of attire on. COVID has changed a lot of that for all of us.
We're just happy everybody gets dressed.
Yeah.
That's true.
Move your camera down. We don't want to see what's on.
I'm actually like wearing shorts.
That's wearing.
Or so you say.
Right.
We're allowed to be real people now, you know? And there was just a lot of that, I think. I'm happy for that. I'm very happy for that because so much more of my real personality has come out as opposed to what the perception and the persona was.
Yeah.
I think that's good.
Yeah. Let me ask you more about that, Francine, because one of the things that we focus on at Catalyst is helping leaders be their authentic self. And so we focus on not just what needs to happen at work, but really how do you align all parts of your life so that you are showing up authentically as yourself. And so I'm curious, when you being in an environment where it's like you felt like you needed this persona, it almost developed without you even knowing that, I haven't even shown this fun side of myself. And now you're able to live that way. How has that shifted just how you show up?
So I think that somebody one time said, and I can't remember who it was, you know, you need to be the same person from 9 to 5 that you are from 5 to 9. And there's so much truth to that, you know, and it's fine to be that way. You still need to be able to be professional, because the professional aspect of that is important. You know, it's very important. And sometimes, you know, there's sometimes, depending on what the situation is and where you are and who you're talking to and what the particular event happens to be, I feel like maybe the tone does need to change a little bit. And it's not that you're not being your authentic self. Yeah. It's just that, let's say that you were to go in and do an inspection. And while you're really being your real self, you might need, if somebody's not taking you seriously, you really need to bring out a different part of that authentic self. I mean, because it's like, if you're not going to take me seriously and do what I'm telling you to do while I'm being nice, there's a different part of my authentic self that you're
exactly. Yes.
Because that switch that we can turn.
And that's important to understand all of those aspects of yourself, right? That's part of it.
It's there.
Yes.
But I think it's important to always be relatable. And we're going to get further if we're relatable with the people that we're speaking to than if we're perceived as being unapproachable and unrelatable. And that even goes down to our appearance and the way we dress. Now, I happen to like to dress up, to wear a dress and heels, you know, and some people find that maybe a little bit unapproachable. For some reason, I get told that a lot. And I don't know. I'm freaking 5 feet tall.
Francine, when we see you next, we want to see you in like joggers.
I get told that a lot. And it's something that, and it's not just me. I mean, this is a conversation I have with a lot of women in a position of authority. And, I think that, even being your authentic self, that still is something that sometimes we as women in positions of authority, and I don't know if it happens to either you or not, sometimes it's something that, it's just there no matter what you do, even as being your authentic self. It's just something that is there. And I don't know that there's anything we're ever going to be able to do about that. It's who we are, and I don't, it's us.
But I think, like you said, it has evolved with COVID, right? But there's still these perceptions of what leadership looks like, or what being in certain roles, how you should show up.
So,
and I think and I think it's also appreciating that people are multifaceted.
Yeah.
Right? I can show up and be calm and composed when I need to be, and I can put that mindset in, but I can also show up over here as fun and crazy, and that's still me.
Do you know what I think it is? I think part of it is that we have learned to set boundaries.
Mm-hmm.
Or I have anyway.
Mm-hmm.
I have to set boundaries. And I am no longer willing, as my authentic self, and to let people cross certain boundaries.
Yeah.
And it's just the way it is.
Yeah. Yeah. I can remember when we were having these conversations about the same thing, about boundaries, setting boundaries. And it's like early on in your career, or as you're trying to figure out, like, where do you even want to be? What do you want to do? Like, sometimes we don't really have a clear viewpoint of what our boundaries are. And so we're almost like moving with the waves, right? We're kind of moving along because we haven't really established where are our boundaries, and when are the times that we're going to cross the lines of our boundaries, and when are the times we're not going to. Are they rigid? Do they flow? Like those things, like sometimes we haven't really done the work to determine where those are. But I think with time and experience, or even even the things that we talk about at Catalyst, like our goal is that when people show up, they can already be there. So that means we have some work to do around, like, once we understand our boundaries and we understand where we want to be, how do we make sure that we're protecting people that's coming behind us, to say, how do you show up as yourself? How do we give you time and space to be able to explore what your boundaries are? And what they are today, it doesn't have to be the same way, whenever, 5 years or 10 years down the road.
And they won't be.
No.
They won't be, exactly.
Because we evolve and we change as people, time. So,
and relationships as well. Like, obviously you're going to have different boundaries with someone you just met versus somebody that you've known for decades. Yeah. Right. And that also kind of that we just received, Francine just sent me a text message this morning from someone that she received a message from. We just posted an episode that landed on Tuesday, and it was a whoops episode. And we talk about this, our journey through our podcast. Anybody who's listened to all the episodes gets to hear about our technology issues and how crazy our life is and how hard it is to fit these in sometimes. And it's not just, every day we wake up, we have our schedule and then we know exactly when we're going to record or anything like that. And so we're bringing people through that journey. But I feel like even on the floor, if you have this persona as a food safety professional or a quality manager, that you are a perfectionist and everything is 100% perfect, then you're never going to hear about a mistake.
Yeah.
Right. And so if you're open about not everybody being perfect and things happen, that's when you're going to learn more about what's going on the floor. Mm-hmm. And then you can actually figure out what the real corrective actions are. And so that could be a huge training experience as well, educational experience on the floors, because if you're allowing people to see that you are human, then it allows them to be human with you. Mm-hmm. And then a lot more things are going to be uncovered and found, particularly if when you find them, you don't freak out. Right. Like, and so how you present finding of those issues and how you help coach them through fixing it, or maybe they don't fix it. Maybe it's you that has to fix it or somebody else that has to fix it. And so how do you walk through that scenario of, oh my gosh, thank you for showing me this. This is great. Yeah, this is not good, but great that you told me that this is not good. Okay. Right. Now we need to figure out what we're going to do. So, And if it's somebody on the floor that could fix it, what do you think we should be doing? If it's somebody on the floor that they can't fix it, you're like, oh my gosh, thank you for bringing this attention, because now I need to go talk to the operations manager. We need to go do this and da 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 da. By having those human elements, you're allowing people to be human, and you're going to find more stuff and fix it.
Yeah.
It's important to say, I don't know.
Yeah, you definitely, yes.
It's okay to say, I don't know. I'll get back to you with that. But I don't know the answer, because we don't know everything.
Yeah. It makes me think about just being relatable, right? Like knowing, Matt, to your point of like someone made a mistake, knowing that you too make mistakes as a leader, right? And that's okay. You know, we're here together trying to solve these problems. That's another way of being relatable to your people, that you also make mistakes. Even in your role, you also need to ask for help. You also need to, right, go and find information when you don't know it. You also get frustrated, right? Like sometimes when my team is like super frustrated, to say I too am frustrated with this situation, just like you all are, and we're valid in these emotions, like have dissolved the room, right? Where everyone's like, okay, yeah, now I'm ready to really focus on what's next. Because like just acknowledging that makes it relatable that we're all in the same boat together. I'm not coming in as like your manager and I'm outside of the situation. No, I'm here with you.
That's compassion.
Yeah.
Demonstrating compassion. It's not just you. Like I get that. That's a human element, a human emotion. And okay, here we are.
Yeah, that's important. That's important. Yeah, I love this viewpoint of like your authentic self and showing up in different ways, whatever represent your authentic self. But I also think, Francine, within your story, one thing that's important is that you also have the power to change your narrative. So if it's even something where people have only seen me in this light because that's the job I was doing, right? Or those are, that's the group I was hanging out with, or whatever it happens to be, people can have this perception of you, and it's okay for you to step outside of it.
Right.
We've seen it on LinkedIn, so we're both very active on LinkedIn. And when we first started doing Don't Eat Poop together, like within the first couple months, Francine's like, "Well, I think someone from your audience is," because like for years, I mean, I've been posting on LinkedIn religiously for probably 12, 15 years, like a long time, and I have people that have been watching me and I've been interacting with for a very, very long time. But all like something crazy will happen in the food safety world, like absolutely insane. And I'll post the article and just in the top of it, just put WTF, right? And then like thousands of people will get like thousands of impressions. So that's my audience. Like they're like, that's Matt's posting something crazy again or funny again or something like that. Where Francine is like, she writes essays in her posts, and they're all like very descriptive. I like to repost her posts because I'm not that guy. So our audience is crossed over. It's been great.
Yes, that's awesome. That's awesome. But look where they can learn from, right? Expanding their network.
Yeah, but we've had a lot of fun, and it's so funny that they've integrated. The audiences have been integrated together.
Yeah. Look at the doors you've opened for people.
Which is fun. Yes. And that is what has happened. So at least that's what I've seen on my side. I think he would agree. Yeah. So yeah, it's I'm assuming some of my people have gone his way as well. His have definitely gone.
Yeah, I think reluctantly they're just like nodding their head, like
reluctantly.
But even that's a great example.
Yes, I could see some humor in that.
It's done. I think that it has allowed some of the LinkedIn is a very professional forum, as it should be. I mean, we met on LinkedIn. You guys, I believe, met through LinkedIn as well, right? Mm-hmm. As it should be. But there's room, just like for training, for it to be fun.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's okay. It can be educational and fun at the same time, and you learn through fun. Yeah. And I think we've brought some of that through the things that we post.
I think so too. I love following both of you and seeing your posts. And obviously, the Don't Eat Poop podcast is doing well, trending globally. You are in the top 100 in natural sciences.
Yep.
So that's amazing. Where can people listen to Don't Eat Poop?
Anywhere that they get a podcast. So they can be on iTunes, Spotify, Google, wherever you listen to podcasts. You could find us there.
Awesome. I listen to my podcast through Apple Podcasts and sometimes Spotify. So you all are on those and all the above.
Mm-hmm. Well, and we know you bring the fun. Mm-hmm. Definitely. We've had lots of laughs already today, but we also know that you have other things that you're working on.
Yeah.
What kind of things are brewing, whether it's collectively that you're collaborating on or even individually?
Well, collectively, I think, what was it, Francine, a couple of weeks ago, we talked about our goals for the year, which was insane, because when we started the podcast, Francine had much higher hopes than I did. I was like, yeah, I think it'll be like family and friends. Maybe we'll have like 20 bit, like, who listens to a food safety podcast, right?
Many of us do.
I know. I didn't realize it. Like,
we're in this phase.
Yeah, like there are some that I've been listening to, but like as like a food safety nerd listening to it, right? And I'm like, how many food safety nerds are really out there? Well, obviously a lot, because we've been doing really, really well, and we kind of just. It was probably Francine, 6 months before you and I actually started looking at statistics, and then it was by our editor, and he was like, "You might want to look at this. Like, you're actually trending. You're doing good." And we're like, "Wait, what? People are listening to us? We just thought we were just talking and filming it simultaneously."
Yes.
There are statistics, analytics, right?
That's actually the question we asked. Maybe there's analytics we should be tracking for this thing. Like, we started it so organically as just for fun. We're just going to do this, and wherever it takes us, it takes us. And so now we've actually created goals. So we have a few goals this year. We want to double our audience. If we can keep doubling our audience year after year, that would be awesome. We want to create a YouTube channel, because
awesome.
Francine's face is hilarious when I say something really stupid. Her face is like, wait, what? Like, we have an episode on the 5-second rule, and Francine was like, wait, you actually abide by? I was like, not 5 seconds, Francine. It could be 30 seconds. It could be a minute. If I really want that food and it's not liquid. Francine's like, no. Food safety, you do things based on assessments, and depending on the risk. Yeah, so we did a whole episode on that. Francine was like appalled. Her face.
That is awesome. Yes,
yeah.
I'll watch that.
A website, we got to create a website. We have don'teatpoop.com, but we don't have the website. So that's what we're doing with that. You heard what I'm doing my career wise, but Francine, maybe you should talk about what you're doing with Trusted Food Source.
Sponsors. We're looking for sponsors.
Yes. That was another thing. One of our goals. We're looking for sponsors.
So
sponsors. Okay.
So yeah, so we have that going on. My Trusted Source, Tia, you're on our board for My Trusted Source. We've got a lot going on there, bringing buyers, suppliers, and service providers together to help with supply chain issues, really bringing them together and making that process a lot easier for them. But so there are so many platforms out there and solutions out there that do a really good job. And what we wanted to bring to the table is the fact that we can do it affordably. There's a lot of solutions out there that do a nice job, and they're hundreds of thousands of dollars.
Yeah.
And we felt that we could do the job as well for a lot less money.
Mm-hmm.
And we're doing it for $40 per user.
Oh, wow.
So that is pretty phenomenal. We just added a new feature. And that feature is that a lot of manufacturers are having problems with their their GFSI audits and things like that. So we want to help make that process easier. So we're helping them find consultants and auditors and work through that process to make the just to make that process easier, to help them connect with the consultants and the auditors to get through the audits.
Yeah.
And make it easier so that they can be more successful and ensure a successful audit, I guess is what I'm trying to say.
Mm-hmm.
So we're real excited. We have a lot of things going on there. ESG, there's an ESG portion of it that we're going to launch later this year. There's a consumer aspect of it. I've got a lot of time tied up with my trusted source, Savvy Food Safety. I'm a consultant. Anything to do with food safety, really, anything you need with food safety. Like I said, I've touched all aspects of the supply chain at this point. When I first
she over delivers every single time. So
thank you, Matt. And when I first started talking to Matt, I was working pretty much with restaurants on the retail side. At this point, it's like start to finish. And if I can't do it, I know somebody that can. So that's what I've been doing with my time.
Awesome.
Another book at some point. But
yeah, you've been promoting your book.
Yeah. So yeah.
And for those of you guys, if you guys enjoyed this episode, and you also like to read, then you'll absolutely love Francine's book, because it's full of stories about a food safety inspector, what goes on in each of her different audits. And there was so many crazy things. Like, all you can say is absolutely crazy.
Literally, this is it, right?
Yeah. It's like crazy. Oh man. She was gonna name the book. This is before our podcast. She was gonna name the book completely something different. Very provocative. I don't know if I can say it out loud, but and I was like, people think you're such a nice little prim professional woman, and that's what you want to name your book. But
that's the sequel.
Yeah. So, and there's also a lot of personal things in there too, that it talks a lot about where I came from. So there's some backstory in there as well.
Francine, this was like this unexpected, like super fun connecting surprise reading your book, because I've seen you at on LinkedIn or professional things, and yes, I thought I'm always so impressed with you. Oh. And I read the book and I was like, oh my God, like to hear your backstory and just the things that you did and the character that you bring forth. And now I get to see you here with like just in the past year where like we connected more in the fun side. I'm like, you are an amazing woman. Oh,
she's okay.
You're okay.
She's all right.
But the way you trailblazed and you've done so much for our industry and for women, and like it was awesome to be able to connect with you, even though you didn't know I was connecting with you through your book.
Thank you.
Yeah, it was awesome.
The review was amazing, and it did make me cry. So thank you.
That's sweet. That's sweet. We appreciate the work.
Everyone, you can get a copy. It's on Amazon, right? Mm-hmm. And other places.
Or my savvyfs.com, either one.
Right, your website. Good. I was going to say, how do people get a hold of each of you? Because you're doing lots of things and in different spaces. What's the best way if people want to connect with you?
I would say I've got like 6 different email addresses. DM me through LinkedIn.
That's what I was going to say too.
That's the easiest, fastest way to get hold of me. Emails out, and just direct message me through LinkedIn. That's the easiest way to get hold of me.
Me too. Right now. I actually respond to direct messages through LinkedIn faster than I do from any other motive as well.
Yes, I agree with that.
That's interesting. Good. That's good to know. And both of their names were tagged on this event. So easy to get to and to connect with them on LinkedIn.
Yeah. And I think from today, you can see, right, like we can be serious about food safety, but we can be fun about food safety. And why not bring that in?
Yeah. Yeah.
Why not? So I'm curious as we kind of get ready to wrap up our time together. What do you want the audience to take away? Do you have like one or two things that you're like, I hope today you go forth with this?
Well, I mean, to go with your, obviously, the fun with food safety. Yeah, I mean, we have a podcast called Don't Eat Poop. So we've completely 100% embraced that philosophy. If food safety could be a very dry, it's a serious topic. People die, people get sick, people not only die, but there are people who get so sick they wish they would have died. That's how serious food safety is, right? But if that's the message 100% of the time with the people that you're working with, then they become desensitized. Frank Giannis, there's a great presentation back when he was at Walmart. He did a presentation on food safety culture at Walmart, and he got his team together and they made a rap about food safety culture. They made a rap about food safety. Finding fun ways of incorporating food safety into the culture of your facility, of your farm, of whatever it is, your restaurant, of your grocery store. Finding fun ways that people can embrace it in their daily activity. That is the best way you're going to build that culture, as opposed to just pounding them over the head with people are going to die. People are going to die. Yeah, but that's not my people. People die in war every single day. And, they're still out shooting guns. I shoot guns, and I have a son who's in Europe who's going to be in war someday, probably, given what we're doing right now. And so that you could desensitize people towards threat. And but if you can make it fun and make it part of your culture, then people will embrace it every single day. And that's what we're trying to do. And we're doing it as well on the consumer side, because if you listen to our podcast, Francine at the end of every show, most of the time, is Francine that brings some funny aspect. Talk about dumpster fire of career. Francine's the one who's bringing in all these crazy things from TikTok and stuff. And we bring in like what consumers are doing and think that are right. And it's idiotic. And that's the only way of explaining it. Some of this stuff is so ridiculous.
Yeah.
And it's real. People
yeah.
They can have like a raw chicken and egg diet, raw chicken and raw egg diet, and that's good for you. I mean, if you want to lose weight, potentially this could be great. You got things coming out both ends. It's fantastic for that purpose. But healthy wise,
maybe not so much.
All right, Francine, now you can add something.
So, to his point, 3,000 people die every year. That number's not changed in years.
Yep.
That number's not changed. I think that we're doing something wrong. But again, you can't keep beating people over the head with that. We need to find ways, like he said, to make it fun. I used to he talked about a rap. I used to every session I had, there's a disco CD out there. I'm showing my age here. There's a disco CD out there.
She said disco and CD. No, Francine, you're not showing your age at all.
And we all knew what it was.
I know.
That's true.
There's a disco CD out there, and it was all about foodborne illnesses. And people would come into the room, and this disco CD would be playing, and it would initially they would think it was real disco music, but then they would start listening, and it was all about foodborne illnesses. I mean, and what a better way to start a session. They're coming in, and, let's face it, everybody's coming in thinking they're going to have this dull, drab day. They're not sitting for 8 hours to begin with, and you're coming in and asking them to sit for 8 or 16 hours, depending on how many days they're going to be there.
Right.
And, food safety conversation, or whatever it is you happen to be talking about in the food safety realm, and they walk in and they listen. They're hearing disco music. I mean, that changes the perspective immediately.
Yeah.
So now they're caught off guard.
Right.
And oh, maybe this isn't going to be so bad. And, there are just so many different things that you can do to make it uplifting and fun and get them involved in the conversation. There's nothing worse than a 300-page PowerPoint that you're going to stand there and read for the entire. Let's not do that. Let's find ways to make it fun and engaging. And that's what I want you to walk away with. If you're in charge of teaching people or training people and educating them, get them involved, make it fun. Whatever you need to do to capture their attention, and whether you're in an office space or in front of a group of people, however it is that you're educating them, get them involved and make it fun, so that you're not just talking at them, you're actually teaching them something and giving them something of value. That's for people to walk away with.
Yeah, you had me at let's not do a 300-page PowerPoint presentation.
Right.
Yeah, definitely PowerPoint.
You've all been to sessions where you'd rather just peel your skin off than be there.
And the people for the people out there who are like, oh, how do I do that? I don't have a lot of time. Just Google it. There are so many ideas out there that you can just like put the food safety twist on or integrate. So check that out.
I used to take in bags of white powder. Can you imagine me going through the airport with all these bags of white powder? And they were like confectioner sugar and salt. And
sure they were.
Yeah. You look like the woman that would be doing cocaine, Francine. We all know.
It was, they were unlabeled. They were numbered.
Unlabeled, numbered.
Wrapped with tape or whatever happens.
Essays,
Oh my goodness. You two are our people, because fun is integrated to the work that we do. Like people are like, what did I sign up with Catalyst? Wow, this is different. And they feel that difference throughout all of our programs. So you too, you all know, like, y'all are our people, and we have enjoyed this conversation and just thinking about like how to bring this fun into our day-to-day lives, right? Maybe come up with a podcast with a cool title. But it's like, how do you make these things fun? Because we are in a space that's heavy. How do you make it fun while also growing together, right? And sharing knowledge and learning from each other.
Yeah.
So we appreciate what you all are doing.
Yes. And we so appreciate that you spent time with us today, and even the prep that we did to get ready for today, which is tech call, but really, really honored to have you on, and so grateful to have you in our circle.
It's always so much fun to talk with you guys. We love you guys.
Thank you for having us, and thank you for what you do as well. You guys do an amazing job.
Thank you. Thank you. And thank you to our audience for hanging out with us, engaging with us, talking with us. We would love to hear your thoughts as well on how you are incorporating fun into food safety. Add it in the comments, because we will see it.
Yes, we will.
And we'll be back next week. Next week, same time, we are here. 101 episode, have crossed the 100th mark, which is awesome. So join us. We're every week, Wednesdays, noon Eastern, 11 Central, to talk about food safety.
Yes. And until then, make it a great week.
See ya.
Bye.
Bye.